Oh, you again, man.
Yo, I just got stopped like 2 blocks ago, yo.
You look very suspicious.
Cause y'all always looking at me crazy.
Because you keep looking back at us, man.
Cause y'all always looking crazy, yo. Coming up the block, always.
That's our job, my man. That's our,
to stare at me, yo?
Listen to me. Listen to me. Our job is to look for suspicious behavior. When you keep looking at us like that, looking back.
Cause y'all always like stop. I just got stopped like 2 blocks away, like.
Because you keep doing that, man. We stopped you last time. Listen to me. When you were walking the block with your hood up and you keep looking back at us like that, bro, you think you might have something.
Cause I have my hoodie in there.
They do that.
You have your hoodie on your body.
It's cold.
Yeah.
You gonna smack me? You gonna smack me?
You want to go to jail?
But for what?
Shut your mouth, kid.
What am I getting arrested for?
Shut your mouth.
What am I getting arrested for?
For being a mutt, you know?
Also, that's a law, being a mutt?
All right. You know, you listen to that, and at the crux of it, that's what this debate's about here. Not every cop does that. I'm not even remotely alleging that. But you go into different communities and you say the word stop and frisk. That's some of the reactions you're going to get. That recording came from June 3rd, 2011, and it's to be the one of only known recordings of a stop and frisk in progress. Now, opponents of the practice say, hey, this thing, by definition, is deployed in a discriminatory way. Look who gets pulled over here, and look at the vast majority that get released thereafter. Supporters, they say, time out. You implement this thing properly, it drives down crime. Look at the numbers. Now, earlier this month, Judge Shira Scheindlin, a Manhattan federal judge, she ordered the NYPD to stop using the controversial tactic in and around private buildings in the Bronx that are enrolled in the NYPD's Clean Halls program. But she lifted the restriction over this week, saying she agreed with the city attorneys who said the immediate halt of some stops would impose an undue burden on the NYPD. Okay, so in response, the NYCLU said, quote, nothing in this decision changes or undermines the court's findings that the NYPD is a practice of unconstitutional trespass stops. All the court has done is to say it wants to consider all possible remedies at a single hearing this spring. The issue, trust me, will come up again in a separate lawsuit that challenges stop and frisk tactics more broadly. That case, it goes to trial in March. All right. Now, whatever happens in the courts, the next mayor, and unless something new, Dominic, that you haven't told me about, Bloomberg ain't running for a 4th term, okay? There will be a new mayor. And whoever that new mayor is going to have his or her police commissioner, and they're going to have to decide whether or not this practice they want to continue. Obviously, both Bloomberg and Kelly, they swear by it, but you have very decidedly different opinions in different communities. And Bishop, I'll start with you again. In the communities of which the folks come and listen to you on Sundays, do they say, I may not like it, but it keeps me safer? Or do they just say, this thing makes the police, in many of our eyes, the enemy, not our protector?
It is the latter. It is the latter. It is people who feel so abused, people who feel so put on that they're imprisoned in their own domicile.
And give me an idea, out of every 100 congregants, how many of them have a story for
I will tell you, I've heard from at least in the last few weeks, 15 black or brown men say how tired they are of working hard all day, only to come home, barely making it home, before they're stopped for no reason. They drive nice cars. It's automatically assumed that they're dealing drugs. One of the members was a CPA, worked hard, went to Harvard, but because of the color of his skin and where he lived, he was stopped. I said to someone earlier, these mass atrocities have happened in places where great affluence is. The only difference is the color line. No one is stopping and frisking anyone in Westchester County. No one is stopping and frisking anyone in Marina Del Rey, but they're coming into Queens in New York. They're going into South Lawndale in Chicago, only because that's where black and brown people reside. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate.
I meant to ask you, one of the lines that's always on this thing is, when they have to give a reason why they did it, he looked furtively. Can you explain to me furtively? Because I've asked a lot of people, I go, what does that mean? That's always one of the lines in here, right?
Okay, but you know what, Richard? I'm not the proper person to ask that question to. You know why? Because I'm not objective in this situation. Because I know what these cops, and we have respect for them because they keep us, they're often the last line of defense to keep us safe. But what they do to African American and Latino youngsters are disgusting. Yeah. How would you feel? We just saw that stop and frisk.
You're a mutt.
If that officer referred to your son as a mutt, my son, who's never committed a crime, comes from an affluent family. But the cops didn't know that when they threw him up on the wall. All they see is a black face, a black youngster. He's got to be doing something wrong. And if you haven't done anything wrong, and yes, my voice is raising because I'm upset at this. If you haven't done anything wrong, if you dare raise your voice at these authority figures, you're going to jail. You're going to jail because you're standing up for your constitutional rights. But because you didn't roll over and do everything they told you to do, you're going to spend the night in jail.
David, you look at the numbers here, and the vast majority of people who are stopped and frisked, they find nothing wrong on them and they're released.
Yeah.
I think it's a safe bet I'm not getting stopped and frisked, right?
Okay, well, first, I'm shocked to find out that cops are only stopping blacks and Latinos, when in fact, and in the New York program, let's assign, and we can break this out by the neighborhood.
David, come on. The numbers reflect.
Well, do you mind if I finish my point? Do you mind if I finish my point?
But the numbers reflect. Wait a minute. I cannot let you get away with that. The numbers
I didn't even finish my point.
The numbers reflect that 90% of those stopped are black and Latinos. That's not even debatable.
Okay, in policing, if I can continue, you go where the crime is, regardless of the color.
You can't deny that. And black youngsters are committing the crime. You can't deny that.
All right. If the crime is prevalent in an area, that's where you police first, regardless of color. In New York, and I'll use New York, the problems were mostly in black neighborhoods and some in black and Latino mixed neighborhoods. So they went there first. The reduction in crime and why the mayor and Ray Kelly and others want to continue the program is because in those neighborhoods they've seen somewhere between 44 and 48% reduction in crime. And there are people there who, while they see the issues, also see the reduction in crime and the ability to be safe. Policing, profiling, stop and frisk, which, by the way, if you read the procedural manual, and I've brought it in here before, you can refuse it, and that one off of that officer.
You can refuse it, but you have to beat down.
No, you don't always end up in a beat down, number one.
And
I know the police
officer
maybe not physically, but
you think that young brother could have said...
You guys are arguing rather than letting me finish a point.
Well, David, excuse me,
you're acting
officer.
like the cop in the scene that you don't like.
Excuse me, officer. You don't have a right to do this.
Well, actually, you can, and you can do that. That one-off is a bad situation with a cop who's not acting properly. I'm not defending that. However, the majority of officers, many of whom I know who go out and patrol these neighborhoods and have done this, black, white, and otherwise, on NYPD, do their jobs to protect the community. They don't all act badly. There are bad people out there.
But part of the problem that officers have said, including on the set, is quotas are attached. So it's not, they got to make a number. So if they got to make a number, they got to stop every night a certain amount of the population. And if they're going to, as you said, where the crime areas are, it has a counter, I think, intuitive effect. People can't be surprised later on, I would think, guys, that people aren't going to want to participate and help the cops solve investigations if they've 3 or 4 times, and we've talked to people who literally, college kid, I don't know, how many times, Andrew? Remember the kid who came in here? He said, at least 6 times he'd been stopped and frisked, and he didn't do anything.
Have you also brought in the other side, which are people, since I've gone into these neighborhoods, whether in Brooklyn or the Bronx, myself, and talked to people, by the way, who happen to be black, and they've also said they like the fact that as much as there's a risk and there are things that come with this, their neighborhoods are safer. There's more than one side to this.
David, can I ask you a question?
No, and it's
let me finish. Do you think every black man? Do you think every black man?
Say only black people are victims.
Do you think every black man should have to explain to their young black child that as you grow older, you will be stopped by the police and thrown up on a wall?
You know what?
You think that's appropriate?
Here's the reality in the world.
Do you think that's appropriate?
Here's the reality in the world. The world exists, and there are breaks in society, neighborhoods, etc. You know what? Educate your kids on what's out there in the world.
We do educate our kids.
My parents educated me on it.
We do educate our kids.
I have dealt with the police in my life.
If I could, Dominic, if you could answer his question only on one thing, which is take Westchester again. And this isn't bleeding heart, this is just reality. His kid's driving in the same town that my kid's in. There's a better chance, and I can speak from some experience in this, that his kid's going to have to look straight ahead, keep the hands on the wheel, and my kid's not. Does that come with the territory to reduce crime?
It doesn't come with every police officer on the beat either. What your assumption is by presenting that scenario is that every cop,
No, I didn't say
every
that.
cop.
I didn't say that because I don't
but
believe it.
No, but this is what's being set
But
up
should
here.
the odds be
is
much
that
greater
every
for his
cop
kid
is
than
looking
me?
for someone who is black over someone who is white. And I have been pulled over in Westchester County, by the way, in college by a white cop looking for someone with the same name wanted for a felony robbery. I cooperated. I simply handed him my ID, dealt with it. You know what the cop ended up doing? He said, "Thanks, I'm not giving you a ticket for speeding." He did his job because he was looking for someone.
Would this happen in Scarsdale?
Where
Or
the
Pelham
crime,
Bay,
where
or
the
Pelham Bay in the
where the
Bronx?
crime is where
Or
police start
Park
their
Avenue.
policing.
Here's the final word for me. Let me say two things. One, I lived in Chicago. That's where I'm from. I'm also an actor. I was doing Ragtime, which opened the Oriental Center, making $2,500 a week. I lived in Presidential Towers. We have to use our IDs to get into Presidential Towers. I was followed to my apartment by a white cop on duty in my building. There was another man, a white guy, who entered the building, did not have ID, did not live there, and he raped a woman in the building while they were following me to my apartment.
Okay.
That's
do
one.
Black
That's
cops,
one. That's
do
one.
black cops
That's one.
conduct stop and frisk?
Well, let me tell you. I can't speak about what black cops are doing. I
If they
can't say
don't, they
this.
won't have a job.
I can't say this. Terry Hillard is a family member of mine. He ran this police department in Chicago for several years. And the one thing that he will always tell us, he never talked about his job a lot, but the one thing he would always tell us is that his encouragement for the cops were to treat us all as equals.
Most cops
Can I got to hit a break here, Andrew?
Are you telling me
I think
most
there's a
cops don't?
practical reality to this, isn't there? Is that every mayoral candidate so far, when pressed on the issue, there isn't one who wants to keep the practice?
I think that's something that we're going to see, and we may see fluctuate as the campaign goes through.
Democrats have said no.
As we keep going through. But look,
Well, the communities have a say in this, and
if
the
this
crime
was-
rates have a say in it too.
guys,
The Democratic candidates,
when
to answer your
when
question,
they
they've said
drop,
no.
when they drop your responsibilities to the community, not to the criminal.
Okay. Real quickly, Andrew?
yeah, if this was happening primarily to white people in areas that were being policed predominantly by black police officers, this wouldn't be happening.
Can I say one thing? Can I say
got to
one
hit a
thing?
break here. But Bishop, I
Where
want to
there's
thank you
no
very
crime,
much. As
there
usual,
is
one thing
not
you
as
learn
much
from here,
stop and
you
frisk.
never get it. You got to fight to get a word in edgewise here. All right, Bishop Moon, thank you very much,
Thank you
and
for having me.
safe travels to Washington. All right, we're going to take a quick break here, but when we come back, we're going to turn to football, and I'm sure we'll debate that one too. Junior Seau's family suing the NFL over his concussions, head injuries they say caused his suicide. I'm going to tell you why this could be a huge deal for the future of football, and I'm not just even talking the professional ranks. We'll get into that after this.